Okay, Allan, I've reviewed your video a few times, and I do several of these video analysis almost on a daily basis, and you can imagine a lot of the swings I look at truly aren't very good. You're an exception to that. You're doing a really nice job in an extremely difficult style to learn how to use, and I don't teach one particular style over the other. The efficiency in the swing itself can be achieved through any style. You happen to be choosing one that's really difficult. I'm going to explain what that means for a second, even though you're doing it correctly. I, too, was a no-stride hitter, so I'm not against it. I'm going to use a clip of Jim Edmonds to compare you against an older clip of a guy that did the no-stride approach very well. The swing sequence starts from the ground and works its way up the body like a long row of dominoes, each one falling sequentially into the next. The first domino that needs to fall is the back knee advancing, which traditionally happens with a stride. 99% of big league hitters use the stride because the stride is the easiest way to get the back knee to advance and start that kinetic chain of events that happens through your feet from the ground and travels up the legs. From a no-stride approach, you have to be extremely coordinated, and you have to do that manually. Now, you are doing it pretty well, and we're just going to point out one little thing in your negative move that's going to be able to tighten your spring, which is around your rear hip. That is the spring of the swing. So when you watch Edmonds on this side, you're going to notice how firm his backside is when he gets into his negative move. He's coiling or compressing his front hip against the back one. So with no stride guys, typically your front heel will lift while this happens. Watch how his belt buckle starts to go against his back leg as you see his back butt cheek turn towards the pitcher. So you do that, but you do it with a linear push as well, meaning your upper body, your torso is going rearward a lot. Notice how little his upper body, torso, and head are moving rearward. That's a traditionally incorrect teach in the negative move, is that it's a motion back before you go forward, and it's really not at all. It's wasted movement that oftentimes gets the hitter out of sequence in his lower half. This is just you going against your backside, not over it, and you see again how that back leg remains very firm. So watching you do that same negative move is where you have a little bit of issue. That makes you lose some of the spring and efficiency around your rear hip. The stance checks out fine. Feet are straight ahead, back knees inside the ankle, so you have pressure against the ground with your back instep, and everything stays inside your back shoe. So when we get into your load, look how much your torso and head are going rearward, and how that back knee travels over your shoe. So the issue with that, your front hip and front leg look exactly the same as what Edmonds was doing, but we have to remain firm in that back leg. If you can imagine your femur, that's this bone, the big bone in your leg, being a telephone pole that's extended all the way down into the ground here. Your hip chassis really rotates around that pole. So I'm loading around that pole without letting that femur bone move. If you can stay firm on that, let's watch that on the other side again. If you can stay firm with that back leg and see how his back femur bone remains very firm as his hips rotate around that, you're going to get much more of a stretch and a spring around your rear hip. The pass-through of energy that you're creating is just going back and forth. It's created momentum, but it has no validity into improving or enhancing the power of your swing. So that's your biggest issue right now, is we got to firm up that back leg, keep your instep pressure against the ground, keep your back knee inside your ankle, and make sure that femur bone is not moving rearward. And that'll allow you to compress your hips a little more and get more out of your lower half. Now traveling to your upper half, you are in sequence, which is really hard to do as a no-stride hitter. Typically the upper body begins to fire more because the legs take away some momentum. So you see how his hips begin to pull his rear elbow into what we call the slot here. And it does so from a resisting position. So as he gets into his forward move, and that's just his belt buckle starting to gain ground from his loaded position, see how that rear elbow pulls back towards that dugout behind him? That's called his scap load. That scap load is resisting his lower body's want for rotation, and it has to happen during the forward advance. So while the legs are wanting to go, your upper body's trying to resist it, and that's what produces the torque of your swing. You do that extremely well, and that's the position you're in right now. So the sequence is really good. It's going to be made better and tighter by making sure that you're not overloading with your backside so much. So because the upper body portions is so good, you're very short in the swing. Your hands and your rear elbow get to the body line at nearly the same time here. So you watch it, the elbow leads initially, hands and elbow get to the body line at the same time. That's what we call connection. The rear elbow is just in front of your body line here at point of contact. Your front side firmed up, your front foot still into the ground, and extension is achieved through that ball because the sequence is right. So as a hitting instructor, I never talk about getting inside the ball. I never talk about getting instruction because I don't have to if I can get the hitter to be in the right sequence. So you have the sequential portion of the swing down, which is what I spend 99% of my mechanical time talking about. We just need to clean it up a little bit by firming up on that backside. That is the one little piece that you're lacking right now that you need to improve upon. So gnaw on that a little bit. See how firm you can make that backside as you lower your hips around your stationary femur. You're going to feel quite a stretch in your right butt cheek when you do that. If you don't feel a stretch in your glute, you're not doing it right. And right now he probably doesn't feel a stretch in his glute because that femur is giving so much. He's overloading so much. So once you have that down and you feel the stretch in your right glute when you load, then you're loading your lower half correctly. Everything else needs to remain the same, and you are on your way to having a very, very good sequential swing.